Over the past several days, 3 females have been found dead.
Looks like someone's going after these girls.
Then they have to know to watch their backs.
Streaming March 13th.
You really want what happened to this woman? That happened to you?
Exactly why I need to keep going on this.
Starring Emmy Award winner Amanda Seyfried.
I'm worried about what you're gonna find.
So am I.
Long Bright River. A limited series. Streaming March 13th. Only on Peacock.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Reclamation Podcast, where our goal is to help you reclaim good practices for following Jesus. If we haven't met yet, my name is Tony, and I'm your host. With over a decade in the local church, I care deeply and passionately about helping you connect with Jesus in practical ways. We are in a series all about Lenten practices. Now, Lenten practices are some of the things that we do in the 40 days that prepare us for Lent. I'm excited to be sharing this with you guys. We've kind of taken the last several weeks, we've taken a more traditional approach. So we talked about fasting, we talked about prayer, we talked about almsgiving. And all 3 of those practices are super important. Actually, some of the things that I think can really help change your Lent. Now, today we're going to talk about one that's a little bit more outside the box, but something that happens pretty frequently in the liturgical church, and something that I'm really excited to share from my own church practices. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a rating or review on iTunes or Spotify, and the highest compliment you can give us, share this episode with a friend. Maybe somebody who you know needs a little bit of intentional theology around washing feet. That's right. That's the practice we're going to talk about today. We're going to come out of John 13, where Jesus washes the disciples' feet. It's absolutely one of my favorite things to talk about because it's a practice that I think changes our posture, right? Good practices change our posture. And this is one of those posture-changing practices. So let's take a look at John 13, beginning at verse 1. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and to go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Verse 8, "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part of me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to this place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked. Verse 13, "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightfully so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I've set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him." Verse 17, "Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." Okay, so let's dive into this text a little bit, and let's get to some practical application about what it means to wash the feet of people in your life during Lent. Now, the first thing that we notice in this is that Jesus had wisdom about what was happening and what had already happened. If we look at verse 2, it says, "The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God." Okay, guys, this is the very, the crux of this entire passage for me is wrapped up in one word, and it's the beginning of verse 4. The word is so.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places. Between payroll, your tax consultant, and the IRS. If your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Look at verse 3. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So, that so word is so important because it's a transitional statement, right? It's a transitional word. It means that Jesus knew who he was. So because Jesus knew who he was, his next actions are so important. Now, why does that matter to you and me? Because if we're going to begin to wash people's feet, it's because of our identity in Christ. We wash people's feet because of our identity in Christ. Now, let's talk about the very action of washing people's feet. Washing people's feet is the dirtiest, most lowly part of someone's body, especially in Jesus' time where they weren't wearing Air Force Ones, right? They were wearing sandals, walking on dirt paths. I mean, it was literally disgusting. And as they were reclined at the table, they were literally sitting so that their feet were away from the table because they weren't sitting in chairs like we would today. They were reclined at the table. So what Jesus does is he goes farthest away from the table as possible, and he washes the dirtiest part of someone's person. What an example he sets for us in this. That during Lent, we're challenged to serve people in the parts that feel the dirtiest, that feel the most unclean, that feel the most unholy. We're called to serve people in that capacity. Not only that, but look what Jesus does. He gets up from the table, and before he washes their feet, he takes off his outer tunic. He becomes vulnerable for them. Friends, if you're wondering how to wash people's feet in Lent, follow Jesus' example, right? Know your identity in Christ, become vulnerable, and then serve someone at the least, most inconvenient part of who they are. Not only serve someone, but love them enough to let them serve you back. Right? Peter is this incredible example in this text. He says, Lord, you'll never wash my feet. And Jesus says, unless I wash your feet, you'll have no part of me. And Peter, being the zealot that he is, says, wash my whole body. And Jesus says, you're not getting it. Right? It's not about this or that. It's about the intentionality that you're bringing to this exercise. And what a great promise for us for Lent. Because truthfully, how we let people serve us and how we serve others in the 40 days that prepare us for the hope that comes from the empty tomb is essential. So while the historic faith may not put a ton into the idea of feet washing as a historic Lenten practice, I would challenge you to be intentional about what it means to wash someone's feet. Maybe your neighbor, who is a challenge. Maybe the person at the grocery store. Maybe the homeless shelter. Maybe there's a place to serve. You know, I often wonder why Christians don't have this sudden increase in serving during Lent. This is such a time to kind of pour ourselves out like a drink offering and let the Lord refill us. So I don't know where you are in your faith journey. Obviously, Lent means something to you if you're listening to these podcasts. I want you to just spend some time wrestling with the question, whose feet can I wash this Lenten season? Who can I become vulnerable with? Who can I serve and show them who Christ is? Not because they deserve it, because they don't, but because you know who you are in Christ. And another way to say that is I'm serving you because the tomb is empty. I'm serving you because Christ served me. And I love the way that this part of the passage ends. You will be blessed if you do them. You will be blessed if you do them. Friends, I pray and hope this Lenten series has been a gift to you, whether it's prayer or fasting or almsgiving or washing feet. The intentional practices that we use as we journey towards the empty tomb is this incredible gift that we give ourselves and we honor God with. So I'm praying for you as we enter Holy Week 2023. And remember, guys, if you're listening to this and it's not Holy Week, it's okay. You can still do these things. I promise they work regardless of what the calendar says. Take some time. Focus on Jesus and celebrate the tomb is empty. Well, guys, if you have any feedback for me or want to tell me how it's going for you, don't be afraid to hit me up on Instagram at TWMilt, at TWMILT. As always, sharing this episode is such a gift to me. I'm so thankful for any time that you guys tag me on social media and share this episode and all the support that we continue to receive at the Reclamation Podcast that allows me to continue doing what I love to do. I'm thankful for you guys. And remember, if you want to follow Jesus, you must be willing to move.